Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, and I think Nate the Nerdarch is going to be joining us in a bit. He's probably wrangling kobolds and goblins as we speak. But today we have special guest Jonathan from Adventure a Week .com. Some of you guys might be familiar with them from one. They have a really successful Kickstarter going right now. They seem to be kicking some ass. Also, I first saw these guys in a dungeon crate, so that was my first exposure. And so we have Jonathan on to tell us what they're doing and what's going on. How you doing today, Jonathan? And for some reason, I cannot hear you now.
Uh-oh.
All
That's
right,
not
now
good.
now I got you now. Okay. So how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. If I was any better, I'd be twins. So the Kickstarter, you want to tell us about that? How'd you get started with that? What was the inspiration? And then
Sure.
go over the overview. And I got some more specific questions, I guess.
Yeah. So the Underworld races and classes for Dungeon Dragons 5th edition and the Pathfinder role-playing game is our Kickstarter that's going right now. Spawned from our very first Kickstarter 5 Kickstarters ago for our Rise of the Drow adventure, which was basically a mega adventure in the Underworld for D&D 3.5 and Pathfinder. And that Kickstarter, we were new at the time. We thought, hey, maybe we can do this adventure in the Underworld. We wanted to do something really kind of classic, heralding back to like Gary Gygax's days and the Dungeoneer Survival Guide, and in that mystery of the Underworld. And we launched that Kickstarter thinking, maybe we can make enough to hire some artists and do some cool adventures in the Underworld. And that Kickstarter it blew out of the water, and we ended up making like $45,000, having all these add-ons, expanded the adventure into like basically 4 different books, and it's been our best seller ever since. And since it sold so well, and we had so many players looking for different options for the Underworld, we started making Underworld races and classes, and we started releasing these small guides. And of course, just like anything, you release stuff and then you start getting feedback and reviews and everything. And after a lot more testing, we found that some of that stuff was a little buggy. Some of the races and classes we created weren't quite working how we wanted them to. So we wanted to go back to the drawing board from scratch, create new artwork, new weapons and armor and gear for the Underworld characters that people that would like to play, and then put it all into a hardback that would be like a more kind of a weirder, more insidious companion to your core books that goes right along with them. So when the players are creating their characters, if you're going to have an adventure in the Underworld or Underdark, if you're in Forgotten Realms or what have you, you can grab that tome and crack it open and start rolling up characters. So that's what we got going on the Kickstarter.
So it seems like it would be a nice supplement companion if someone hasn't started playing Out of the Abyss yet. So this would probably like dovetail real nicely into that.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Anything that goes on the Underworld, Underdark, and especially if you want characters, you don't have to. I mean, you know how some of the Underworld characters tend to be a little more evil, like the Drow, especially. You don't have to go with evil, but sometimes it's kind of fun to throw, an evil party member and have them try to figure things. How's this going to work when we've got if these for you guys that tend to be more like neutral or chaotic good, and then you've got this, neutral evil or lawful evil character along with the group as well, and maybe you're working towards similar goals, and you have to figure out how to work things out.
Yeah, that I actually like doing that. Yeah, I don't like the evil party per se, but an evil party member that has a reason to work with the rest of the group, or if you ever occasionally putting one in there as a plant can be pretty fun. So, what are some of the challenges? Going with the Kickstarter, designing these races and classes for the Underworld. And one of the things I'm always curious is about, like, how concerned are you guys with balancing it against Wizards of the Coast products and Pathfinder products, or do you guys just like, we're doing it our way?
Well, this is the thing. When it comes to mechanics, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm the publisher, and I also am an author, but I tend to go more towards the kind of ethereal, the storyteller aspect of things. So that's usually kind of my role when it comes to this. And this is a different kind of an aid. So I've recruited Thilo Graf out of Germany, also known as In Zeitgeist, who has reviewed well over 3,000 products for 5th edition and Pathfinder, and is very, very well versed in all of the rules and various mechanics. And we also hired Stephen Rowe, who's done a lot of work for Kobold, and I think some stuff for Paizo as well to take care of the Pathfinder stuff. And then Chris Harris, he worked on Toma Beasts and some other projects for Wolfgang at Kobold Press. And he's doing all the 5th edition stuff. And basically, Tilo did all the revisions on everything. And then we're again putting it through basically another filter for these guys to go back through and pour over everything and make sure it's absolutely perfect. So really, really refined. And some things have bounced back and forth a couple of times where we're like, okay, well, how's this going to balance out with the existing rules, you know? And yeah, so we are taking it very seriously, because I know exactly, in like 3.5, remember they created, like, all these companies created all these additional books, and people are showing up in my game table, oh, I want to make this character and I want to do this with this class. And you know, some of that stuff was so overpowered, it was so broken, it would just destroy the whole game, you know. And everyone else is like, yay, this was a fun battle, you know, this one guy just took out everybody, you know. So it's like,
Two words. Two words. Mongoose. I believe it was Mongoose Publishing. There was a fighter prestige class. Their top tier ability was called Killing Machine, and they would basically cleave and take a 5-foot step, and as long as there was an enemy within 5 foot, they could like circle the globe a couple times in like 6 seconds.
So every time they took out an enemy, they got to go again, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. As long as there was someone within reach.
Yeah, so you run a bunch of kobolds, and you're like, okay, well, there's the game. I'm gonna go have a beer, go out for smoke or whatever, because this one guy's just gonna sit here rolling dice for the next, 25 minutes till all the kobolds are dead. So
yeah, let Blender-O-Matic go at it for a while. We'll come back when he's done and pick their pockets. But yeah, I've also seen other companies where they're also, I think it's way more important on the player side of things than, say, the DM side, where, you know, with magic items and monsters and that kind of stuff, you have a lot more freedom probably as a publisher, because the DM can just choose to, he's the one that has to choose to allow it or not allow in his game anyway, and kind of have an idea. Granted, I do believe one of the challenges is trying to get it at least close, because if you have a new DM and they're using, you know, they're basing their judgment off of somebody else's work, and it's not in line with everything else, it could definitely cause some problems for his game, but not nearly as much as, you know, as the player options, where, you know, one, the DM is going to have to prove everything. And like, we do a little bit of, I don't want to say third party publishing, but we do like Patreon wars where we create stuff. And, you know, I'm like kind of the tyrant with that, with like, look, I don't want these guys to have to go to their DM and ask permission to use our stuff. I want the DM to go, oh, these guys did it, it's good. You know, not that I'm not saying we're there, but that's just, you know, my mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and in any group, of course, the DM or GM kind of has final say on what gets in, what goes in. But you're right, especially a lot of new game masters or new dungeon masters would be more likely to allow stuff at the table, and then in retrospect go, damn, why did I let that player have that? You know? I mean, I'm sure you've had that where you give out a magic item and you're like, why did I give that to the party?
Oh yeah, it was like called like the first half of my dungeon mastering career probably, or you're like, you know, or you know, somehow it turns into a Monty Hall campaign, and you're like, how did I get here? Oh right, I gave them everything. But you know, as a DM, you know, there's all this stuff.
Yeah,
It's
how
so
did this
cool.
happen?
You want to see?
Yeah, I gave them this stuff.
Yeah. So this project has been ongoing then, because you said, you know, first you did them as supplements and kind of compiled them. So how long have you guys been working on this?
Well, so these books came out a few years back, but I'd say as far as once we hit the point where we're like, these need to get revised and we'd like to start again and kind of dig deeper, and then also create some, some additional options, and like add the Sverfnebulin race and race. When we decided to do that, that was probably about two years, maybe a little over 2 years ago. And we're only getting to the Kickstarter now because we actually were working on Into the Wintry Gale, which was our first ever really late Kickstarter, where stuff we just promised too much, and we were just like working on, night and day on that for a long time. We wanted backers to have their books in hand before we launched our next Kickstarter. We just didn't feel right launching another one until all of our backers were content with their, Into the Wintry Gale books, so which was like a Viking saga. So once that was done, then we launched it. But yeah, it's been in the works for 2 years as far as the revisions go. And I'd say about 3.5 since the original books were created. So a
Oh,
lot of work's gone into it over time.
so you guys have actually probably then have a lot of testing that's gone into that, and gotten a lot of feedback as far as what you created. So that's pretty solid.
Yep.
Like so.
Also, of course, a lot of us have used these at our own tables as well. Because it's perfect when I can experiment on my friends. Say, yeah, I'll buy the beer, but you guys are gonna be guinea pigs. So.
Well, I think you just picked up another backer because I'm always leery of this kind of stuff. It's like, did a bunch of Drow fanboys make this or what? So like it. And just in general, when I see Underdark and anything having to do even remotely close to being Drow, I know we've all suffered through this in our tables. With the influx of Drow Rangers, it's like they have no other character classes in the Underdark anymore, and their only weapon available is a scimitar. So, but no,
somehow there's this like there's a good character who's a Drow male. And he's dual wielding scimitars. Oh, it's so original.
You get to a certain
player out there is like, oh yeah, I'm creating this character.
You get to a certain point, and you're like, there's got to be more good Drow than evil Drow at this point. But no,
and they're all dual wielding.
Yeah. So I'm very intrigued, and I'm impressed with the amount of time you guys actually put into the products. So that's really cool to hear, and I feel like too. The people that are watching and listening, they're gonna jive with that as well. But you said you started AdventureWeek.com about. You said conceptually you guys started in 2010 and opened the doors in like 2012. So how's
I'm losing you a little bit here, but I think I got all that.
Okay. Well, if you need to, you can go to audio too. That usually cuts down the bandwidth.
Sure. Yeah. Let's give it a shot here. See if that helps at all. Okay.
All right.
Hopefully that's a little bit better there.
Okay.
So AdventureWeek.com. Todd Gamble, who was one of the cartographers working alongside Rob Lazzaretti back in the days when WotC had acquired TSR and moved everybody out here. To Washington State from Lake Geneva. He had just started at Wizards of the Coast and was learning actually with Rob Lazzaretti, and worked there for a long time, and also did model scenery for Privateer Press and a bunch of other companies. And then him and I happened to live in the same town, so we met up and we started AdventureWeek.com. Because I'm a storyteller, so I started writing these adventures, which I'd been doing as a DM since I was about 8 years old. And he started creating the maps. We wanted to do an adventure every week, so we started out with that. That was a pretty hard goal to meet, but we started writing adventures in 2010, and then our site went live in 2012. And then as far as keep up with full-length adventures that were like 64 pages and all this with tons of maps and artwork and everything, releasing those every week became nearly impossible at a certain point. So we switched gears a little bit and we started creating different kinds of versions, like mini dungeons and just a wide array of products, so that people could have access to, whether you use Hero Lab or Fantasy Grounds or any of this other software. We always include VTT maps too, so if someone uses Roll20, they can grab our maps in whatever format they need, and we do that for every single adventure. We do PDF, we do print. And so we create a way for our subscribers, which it's $10 a month to be on our website, to get access to all these different adventures. And if you're a member, you can access a flipbook format, which is like online PDFs, and you can access our entire catalog that way. So the only stuff we don't have on our website are our bigger books from like Kickstarters, like our Rise of the Drow books. We have the early versions, which were the pre-Kickstarted versions, available on the website for free. For subscribers, but like the big books, those are backer only.
Okay, so I think I was poking around a little bit. And guys, if you're interested in Adventure Week, you can go over to their website and check it out. You can check out the Kickstarter for the Underdark or the Underworld races and classes, which both have links in the description, so you don't have to look very hard to find them. You just click there and go where you want to go. But I was poking around on your website and I saw $10 a month. You get to download two two adventures a month, as well as you just said you have access to the flipbook format as well.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're logged into the website, which up here we're a little spoiled in Washington because my friends have told me in some other states, like, dude, we don't have coffee shops on every corner and Wi-Fi everywhere you go, like you guys do. But up here, if you basically if you have decent internet access, and that connection's stable and you're gonna have it for your whole game session, you can log in to the website and scroll through, and we have something like I think we have like 300 something Pathfinder products, maybe even 400 now, and then we have like 120 to 150 fifth edition products. So I mean, there's a wide array of stuff, and all sorted by different categories. So you can go through there and sort through and see what you'd like to play. Click it, open it up in flipbook format, and it essentially is it's basically like a virtual PDF. It opens right in your desktop. You just open up, do full screen. You can flip right through the pages, and it flips just like a real book too.
Awesome. And the products that you guys have included in the past with Dungeon Crate, I found them pretty cool as well. The little mini dungeons. It's you're stuck for an evening. You can go to your Dungeon Crate, pull one of those suckers out, and you have something to throw at your players.
Yeah, and I cannot take credit for that because that got inspired by an old Greyhawk product that I happened to pull out one day, and I was digging through. I'm like, man, I love these things. They're like these little adventure cards that Gary Gygax had included, and they were just like one side had a map and like kind of an introduction to an adventure, and the other side you flipped over had like all the different rooms that were, room number one and the entry hall or whatever, and I remember using those because they were so perfect for if the group like went off the beaten path. And I was thinking like, dang it, I didn't expect them to do this. And I just, for whatever reason, I'm just not inspired tonight. I don't have some, I can't do something on the fly. You can grab one of these cards that's appropriate for the character level and just run with it. And they're perfect.
They are. That is actually something that's kind of perfect for like our group, because even though we buy like most of the adventures that Wizards of the Coast puts out, we don't actually ever run any of them. And we'll cherry pick for things, but something
Sure.
small like that I actually like, because I will take something like that and take a look at it and incorporate that into the evening's adventure. Our group's a little weird. My personal hang up with like pre-written adventures is I actually feel like it's more work for me to use one than it is to just DM my own stuff. So it has to be like really cool to really pull me in to want to run it as a game master. But that's just me personally, because for me to run it, I would have to read the whole thing, then customize it, and like,
yep.
By the time I'm done that, I could have written like 4 nights worth of adventures.
So. No, I agree with you, and honestly, that's the thing is like we've done so many adventures, and I personally have written so many, and also I have I'm also running them in my group every other week. We've got our gaming group going on, so it's like, I've learned that too, that at a certain point, an adventure can become unwieldy, where it's basically you've got like for Rise of the Drought, yeah, it's a great adventure and it's our best seller. It might not be for everybody though, because it's a massive book and you got to read through the whole thing to really get all the backstory and everything that's going on. And some GMs and DMs, they want to grab and go. And going forward, that's a lot of the stuff that we're going to be producing. Is grab and go stuff, and we're also producing it really cheap. So like the mini dungeons, those are 99-cent PDFs. So if you have a night where you're like, dang, I really need something to put in and I need to grab something on the fly, you could go to DriveThruRPG or our website adventureweek.com and go in the shop or Paizo and just go grab a 99-cent mini dungeon that's level appropriate and seems like something that works thematically with your group and what's going on in the campaign. Pay 99 cents, download it, and bam, open it up, and you're good to go. And you don't really need to read a whole lot of backstory. It's like a short, paragraph, just a few sentences telling you what's going on, and then you go right to the room descriptions, and you just work it in any campaign. So, I mean, personally, I have actually used them a lot in my own campaign because my players have a way of just like going way off track, which is fine,
Yeah, that's what they do. So okay, so we do a roll call here, on our daily live chat to find out where people are from. So I'm going to sound that off, but in the meantime, staff writer Scott Garibay has a question that he seems to ask for everyone that is a publisher that moves from Pathfinder into 5e or does both. And is there any equivalent for the Pathfinder MPC Codex on the Adventure Week site?
Oh, that's actually, that sounds like a question that could lead into a product. So he's looking for something where he can grab different levels and character race and class types. Just grab an NPC that if he needs one really quickly. So the party's run into some bard in town. He didn't expect them to like have this go any further than a quick conversation. Allison, he needs statistics.
Yes, yes. And basically, so Pathfinder did some really good products, NPC codexes, and I think ever since he's been looking for one for 5e, and even like I know he's tried using them in his games in 5e, but you can't take Pathfinder and put it in 5e. They just blender everything in their path.
Yeah, yeah. So that's actually, that's not something we have, but that's a very interesting idea and something that as a DM that's running fifth edition right now, I've had a number of times where I'm like, dang, I just need an NPC. I need like a pirate, and I need him to be
Yeah.
between this level and this level, and I just can't find anything. And a lot of times I'm running fancy grounds, and I'm looking through all the different supplements I have and some of the other adventures, and I just can't find it. So that's a really great idea. Level basically a character that's a pirate like character or whatever, and you have like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going up and up, and that would be fantastic, especially for people using stuff like fancy grounds where you just need to something grab and go. That's a good idea and something I am very interested in pursuing, and maybe he can shoot me an email and we can talk more.
Excellent. We actually not to steal your thunder. We actually do like in our Patreon. We do like a small amount every month, and one of those levels is actually friend or foe, and that's just an NPC that drop in your game. And so, and that is like game masters. That's what we were thinking. Like, what are game masters going to want or need that's going to help them make their game better.
Yeah, and
And
go smoother, because you don't like no game master likes it when you're like, okay guys, just hold on just a second, and then you're screwing around, and the guys, people start getting up from the table and going out to smoke or going, leaving the table, and you're like, no, guys, come back.
why are all your NPCs named Bob? I'm gonna break away for a minute here to go into the roll call. We got First Watch 328 in Tampa, Comic Book University, smartass from Menzer Berenzen, Scott in Philly, Soviet Seed in Cleveland, Ghetto Stabulous, Louisiana, John Brogan, Jacksonville. We got Paul from Birmingham, Alabama, Eric from West Virginia. We have Mark from the vast deserts of the Arab Emirates. I don't think we've had that one yet.
Cool.
Rogelio is in Utah. Sue Rainey, hey guys, Atlanta checking in. We got Fred, New Orleans. Michael in Canada, Tampa with Jose Suarez. Hey, Jose. Hank, we've got in Signawa, Michigan. I'm probably butchering that, but they already know I'm going to butcher everything anyway. Uncle Peter in Toronto. We got St. Albans, UK. Glenn, what time is it over there? Lavoyer, or Orange County, California. All right. We got Central Florida. So what happens when I do the roll call? Oh, we got Ireland in the house again. All right. We had a guest this week on from Ireland. We got some more
Nice.
California. We have New York City. What always happens is I start the roll call, and then there's a delay. So I'm like, well, you might as well have someone talking instead of us just sitting here staring at the screen waiting. And then they start going back into the conversation, and then I start doing the roll call, and then they start coming back. We got Finland. Someone's short before too long. Someone's going to ask, when is he going to ask about Sweden? Because I always do. We've got Lake Michigan, and this is really like kind of like the fun and cool part about this for me. Anyway, I don't know. This is like the 23rd one we've done, and I still get a kick out of seeing where everybody's from.
It's awesome. It's cool to see all the different people. Like on my site, there's different, it'll show where people are from, or it'll show at least an IP address and gives you a general idea. And there's people all over the world, using our site and running their adventures. And a lot of the stuff, I know it's not even translated to their language. So, they're in Russia running something in English, it's like, that's pretty impressive.
We got Washington, and they're breaking my balls now. Sweden doesn't exist. Sweden's a lie. It's a lot of fun. They had a field day with me when Matt Colville was on, because Matt can talk a little bit, and they're like, "Look, someone that talks even more than Dave. We found a way to shut him up." I could have literally put Matt on and just went out to lunch. It was great.
You're like, oh, just take a break.
Yeah. So, gaming. What's going on with gaming in you?
In my personal gaming group?
Yes.
My personal gaming group, you were talking about evil parties earlier. Somehow, We do D&D 5e right now. We did Pathfinder for a long time, 3.5 back in the day, but right now we're doing 5th edition. We gravitated to using fantasy grounds because some of our players had different health conditions where unfortunately weren't able to travel for a little while, and then we also have sometimes friends Skyping in from other countries and whatnot. So we do fantasy grounds. So my brother and I built with my brother's help, we built a custom gaming table. We got all the lumber, built a custom gaming table, and it doesn't look all that fancy, but it's very functional. It's got a top that pops off, and then inside is a flat panel TV inlaid in there, and I have a desktop running fancy grounds there, so the players can actually sit around a table, because I didn't want people staring at laptops. I wanted people sitting around a table just like in the old days, and so everybody sits around and uses the same space, and then I run the game. And so we do D&D 5e, and we originally actually started out, I asked Wolfgang if I could help doing some testing out some of the Tyranny of Dragons and everything that he was getting going for WotC back before everything was released. And so we had started converting some of that in ourselves into fantasy grounds just so that we could run it. And so we started off in the early days going with that. And then the early days, that was 2 years ago or something, with this particular gaming group. So we started out with that. And then after a while, they're like, F these cultist members, these dragon cultists. I'm so sick of these guys. I don't even care what happens. Screw the realms. They can go off and do their own thing. So they went off and started doing their own adventuring, and we stuck with Forgotten Realms. I'm actually friends with Ed Greenwood, and I love everything he's done with the Forgotten Realms. I was playing that way back in the day. So even though I do have my own campaign setting of Aventir, I do like to run a lot of stuff in Forgotten Realms. So over time, different party members died, and players rolled up new PCs, and for whatever reason, we ended up with primarily evil characters now. But I've found ways to make the world more kind of cause and effect as opposed to like good and evil. So instead of people being, there's more of a gray area. Like I was a big fan of the Star Trek Next Generation, but then when they did like DS9, I really liked the idea of, it wasn't so, straight up black and white where it's like, here's good and here's evil. It was that big gray area, all that in between. And so we kind of play in that area a lot. And the party ends up doing things that are beneficial to the party or to the different organizations the party may work with, whether it's the Zentarum or the Order of the Gauntlet and whatnot. So they've come to own a small castle, which they're having to deal with. How do we keep that castle stocked and protected and all this other stuff, and also still go off and get some adventuring done. And yeah, so right now they're actually in Waterdeep, seeking out a vampire who supposedly has worked his way into possibly the Lords of Waterdeep and Inner Circle, and throughout Waterdeep, affecting different things within the city. And yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, because if any of my players are watching, then they're going to know what's coming up. So, but that's me rambling on about our personal gaming group. So, how about you?
No, that's cool. Yeah, oh my God. So I run a monthly 5e game that I've been running for the last couple of years. Live game, and which we record, and they're all up except for the missing episode, which every once in a while someone will go back through the catalog and be like, "Hey, where's this episode?" I'm like, "Oh, that one." We don't talk about that one. And then I'm playing in a monthly game, and then we have staff writer Scott, who's actually in the chat asking questions. He runs these campaigns that are like short arcs, and they're very accelerated. So like if you're talking Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to automatically gain a level every session. You may gain 2, maybe 3, and he's only going to play for something like 4, 5, 7 sessions, and he runs that monthly for us. But with him, we've been switching them out. So we've played like Shadowrun powered by Cypher System. He's run some 5e for us. He's run Fantasy Flight Star Wars for us. He's run right now we got Gamma World going on, and then we're not sure what we're going to do next. I think we're going to let the patrons pick the next game we play with him. Then I'm running an online game, which is I wanted to like highlight some of the lady gamers, so I tried to find just female players to have an adventuring party, which is very different than my personal experience in gaming. It's always been dudes and maybe like a spouse or significant other who may or may not have been actually into the game. So it was really cool to to connect with some lady gamers online and get them into the group, and we're having a ton of fun with that. That's actually a weekly game, and then we're getting ready to start up another weekly game where we're doing a session 0, actually tomorrow, for Open Legend RPG, which Ed Greenwood actually did a bit of writing on that, on the
Yeah.
campaign setting, and Matt Mercer, Brian Feaster is a friend of ours. He actually is local to us. And when he started out, he reached out. So we're going to be running that game, which the patrons are actually picking the game that we're going to run, the genre.
Cool.
So I'm going to take like the top 4 things they've picked and mash them into one setting. So far it's like I have to go back and check before we actually get started tomorrow. But so far it's steampunk with fantasy and espionage elements with an eldritch horror threat is what I'm envisioning right now.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I got a lot of ideas percolating. Hopefully hopefully there hasn't been an influx of votes that completely shift everything and be like, oh, now we're playing a fantasy western. All right. But yeah, we're getting a decent amount of gaming in. We actually started Nerdarchy, so we have an excuse to game, and we could tell our wives we were working.
Yeah, no, it's totally. I started with Nerd Trek. I'm like, I need to come up with a good excuse to like get free products in the mail from companies and play games that I love, and also go to conventions for free and then talk to all the creators and all that. So I'll just make this blog, and pretty soon it was happening. But then it became too crazy to do that and Adventure Week. But yeah, it's good to have a nice excuse to nerd out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's. I feel like I've perpetuated the greatest scam of all time with this thing. So, Staff Writer Scott, what makes an adventure great? What challenge? What challenge? What do you challenge your writers to do in an adventure?
Actually, that's the interesting thing. So my main go-to writer, I don't even need to challenge him. He's just fantastic. Everything he comes up with is just outside the box, like you wouldn't believe. His name's Stephen Yeardley, and him and I worked on Rise of the Drow together, along with Will Myers. We also worked on Snow White, and he's working on a new secret project that's coming soon, where we're working with another company, a big one, and there's going to be some announcement coming probably in the next 6 months to announce that one. But what he does is he goes back to some of the old school stuff, like basically pulling riddles and puzzles and things like that, but he challenges the party in really unique ways and causes the group to really learn that they have to work together, both as PCs, both their characters working together, and also as players at a table, whether they're solving some kind of a complex puzzle or riddle, or discussing what's going to happen next. And I guess that's the thing, is that when you want to write a really good adventure, it's not just about the story. Sometimes authors can get caught up in just what they're doing. I'm the author and this is my story and I want to tell it exactly like this. But the fact of the matter is you're kind of laying the groundwork for a story, and then giving the DM or GM tools to really see that come to life. And then it's the PCs who are the stars. They're the ones living out that story. So that's the key, is really to realize that you can't get caught up in yourself as an author and go like, I'm going to tell my grand tale. It's like, well, maybe you should go write a novel. This is an adventure that other people are going to play and they want to have fun.
That sounds like some advice we've given 10,000 times or so.
Yeah.
So your table is getting a lot of love in the chat. They're definitely digging the idea of your table, and you're inspiring others to make their own table. Someone actually mentioned getting an old Pac-Man machine or something and kind of doing that setup with it.
Yeah, I can give a lot of advice on that stuff. Actually, if they want to follow me on Facebook, just look up Jonathan G. Nelson, or you can find me by going, I think you can go to like adventureweek.com and then just see I'm one of the admins on there. But yeah, just friend me on Facebook, and I've shared pictures of my gaming table, but I could share a bunch more and share advice, and even like what kind of materials I used, how much they cost, all that kind of stuff. I'd be happy to share that with you guys.
Also, someone's like, tell Wolfgang to accept my friend request, but that sounds like a good way for people to regret accepting our friend requests.
Tell Wolfgang to accept their friend request.
Yeah.
Scott, if you want to be friends with Wolfgang, just the advice I give anybody, if you want to meet, like, say you're trying to get into the industry, or you just want to meet some of the people in the industry, um, instead of like, say you go to Gen Con and you want to go up and you want to meet Wolfgang, instead of walking up to him and you're not buying anything his booth, but you're coming up and like taking up his time that he's spent a ton of money to fly out here with all his books and he needs to sell them, maybe even just to break even. um you know, ask him, say, hey, where are you going to be after this? Can I buy you a beer? And then go, or meet him at a seminar and ask some questions at the seminar and then talk to him right after the seminar. But um just realize that everyone, all these people in the industry, we're all real people, and a lot of us, most of us, actually have day jobs as well. So someone offering that, hey, can I buy you a beer, or can I buy you, buy you a cheap dinner, let's go out for a cheeseburger or something, sure, yeah, almost any guy's going to take you up on that offer. Any guy or girl in the industry is going to take you up on that offer when they get done with working a day at a booth. They're just looking to eat something and have a beer.
And buy their goddamn product and ask them to sign it or something to show them you really do
Yes,
appreciate
yes.
them.
Buy a book, especially when they're at a convention. Because my last Gen Con was, first time I was at Gen Con was great. Rise of the Draft flew off the shelves. This last time we went to Gen Con, I think it was my third time selling, was horrific. And a lot of people wanted to come talk with me, and I appreciated that. It was really nice to be able to see all these people like, oh, remember me? I met you at this other Gen Con. And that was great. But I'm like, please buy something. We ended up going home like a dog with its tail between its legs, just like you know, basically not only handing out books for free, but coming back so far in the red, we're like, okay, I have to figure out how to recoup for the next 6 months, because that would just kill me. Gen Con's changed. It's more like board games and card games. And we were in a bad position selling role-playing games. So unfortunately we didn't do too well last year.
Well, hopefully you got a lot more exposure at least, and it'll pay off in the long run. Um,
Yeah. And I met a lot of great people, and that's important.
so are you going to try again?
Probably not Gen Con, to be honest. It really has become board games and card games. And granted, the pendulum does swing back and forth, right? So eventually it will come back to role playing games, and then I will attend. But it seems like the only people selling role playing games at Gen Con, like really, really selling, where it was like Paizo, because Paizo always sells. And but I think if I'm going to go to conventions, Gamehole Con, Gary Con, I'd really like to go to Gary Con, especially because I have a lot of respect for all the guys that are still alive who started in this trade, and it was a different animal back then. And I'd like to, I still, like, I spent one night at Gen Con just buying Tim Kask drinks and just picking his brain. And he was kind enough to spend a couple hours with me, which was awesome. But it's like, I'm not done yet. I want to go and talk to Tim some more. I want to spend some more time with Ed Greenwood. I want to spend some more time with some of these people that can tell you tales from back in the day and share a lot of the wisdom that they've gained along the way. Because that's the thing, is that they've seen it all. They've seen it come from the very beginning all the way up until now. So that's a lot of wisdom to share.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to Origins this year. I'm
Oh,
looking at
cool.
Gen Con. I got press. Yeah, I got a press badge for both of them. Gen Con might be me living in my car for a few days. I'm not sure yet.
It's so expensive. It's insane. Every hotel sells out in like the first day in the whole city. It's just nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Like we were going back and forth on it, and then like even more so. Like I guess like after they went live with everything, and I was like, really, guys, I think we really needed to be having this discussion a couple months ago and made a decision.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta plan it way in advance. And it really helps if you have any friends that live anywhere near there, that you can just say, hey, can we come crash on your floor? I'll give you $100 or whatever. It's like that would be a big help as well. Because it's nuts. All the hotels, like, if a hotel's normally like $100 a night, now it's $300 a night. And it's booked solid.
Yeah, I'm definitely throwing that out there to anybody watching. If you want a Nerdarchy in your room, we can make this happen.
There you go. Yeah, find a listener that'll help you out. That would be a perfect idea.
Scott wants to know if you guys would ever consider or have considered making Fate or games or adventures powered by Apocalypse.
I have not, to be honest. I know that the late great Stephen Russell, who's a friend of mine, unfortunately passed away a little over a year ago. He was doing a lot of stuff for Fate. I know that. And but personally, no, I have not, and I actually don't have a lot of experience with those systems myself.
That would that is actually, as I'm asking, one of the things I'm thinking, like, you'd have to be into those systems in order to make that work,
Yeah,
or bring somebody in.
and I like trying out new game systems. The part, I mean, like Peter Atkinson was running a oh, what is it time Burning Wheel game, and he introduced us to that system this last year, and I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was it was really fun learning a new system and trying that out, and I liked their ideas of how their character classes worked and everything. But yeah, I love new systems. It's just, for me, it's kind of like finding the time, because I'm a single dad with 2 kids. I got a day job, run this game company, play in a band, like the list goes on and on. So I got to find time to sleep too. But if I'm ever, self-employed, I'm definitely going to be experimenting with more game systems. And if I like them, I would be interested in producing material for them.
That's why we're the guy that's actually asked the question. We're so grateful for having him. He's kind of controversial in our channel at times. People love him or hate him, but we're really lucky to have him because he just has an eclectic uh, uh, amount of knowledge when it comes to tabletop RPGs, and he's always willing to run different games for us. And he's introduced us to the Star Wars game, to Fate Accelerated, Cipher system, and he's pretty much like, here, I have all these games, I'll run any of them for you if you want. Glenn Cooper has a question for you, a very specific one too. Tell me about dungeon doors in your adventures.
Tell me what dungeon doors.
Dungeon doors in your adventures. You guys bringing in a carpenter? What are you guys doing?
Where's this? I'm kind of confused.
I have no idea. That literally reads, "Tell me about dungeon doors in your adventures." Like I said, oddly specific.
I don't know. What do you want? What do you want to know about my dungeon doors? It sounds like a personal question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he talking about my personal games or my?
No, I think he means in the adventures you guys write.
Oh.
Huh. Like I said, it's oddly specific. I'm like, they're dungeon doors.
Dungeon doors. I don't know. Every adventure is different. I guess if you're talking about the mini dungeon adventures, all the cartography on that one, or on those, that's all done by Justin Andrew Mason, who has a new website. I believe it's Paths to Adventure, and he also just had a really successful Kickstarter for his big book of maps for tabletop role playing games, which I think you'll be able to start getting some of those maps soon. But he does all those, and so yeah, if you have any questions about his maps or his dungeon doors, shoot him his way. You can find him on Facebook too, Justin Andrew Mason.
So actually, same guy, Glenn Cooper. He's actually running a con in the UK in June, and is looking for is not running a con, running a game at a con. I'm sorry, but he's looking for advice. So yeah, I'll weigh in, and you can weigh in as well. If you have anything, really, any kind of game like that, it's a one shot, and it's got to be really focused. And probably you're going to want to have pre-gen characters. And I found, if you're running 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, that means you could probably do 3 encounters if the game is really focused.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to have pre-gens. You can't have people showing up trying to roll up characters, or people with their own characters, because there's going to be those players out there who think they can do certain things, or made a mistake, or they have their own house rules, and they've forgotten that, well, it's only my DM that allows it. So yeah, definitely have pre-gens. And I'd create like maybe 8 to 10 different pre-gens, so that the players coming in have some different choices, and then allow them to kind of tweak them accordingly. Maybe they want to be female instead of male, or want to change the name and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the pre-gens are definitely the way to go. And then honestly, something like our mini dungeons those are perfect for that as well. Like we did, we ran some games at Gencon, and we found that we only needed 1 mini dungeon, just because how players are. They get involved in these deep conversations. Well, should we do this or should we do that? And what do you think would happen if we do this? And they get in these deep conversations, and inspecting something to death, some glyph that they found, and pretty soon hours have passed. So we found that 1 mini dungeon wasn't more than enough. So yeah, and those average probably about 3-4 encounters. So Dave's probably right on that.
I actually have an adventure that it's one of the few we actually wrote, and we sell the PDFs for on our website. And I've ran it I must have ran it like 4 to 6 times by now, and one of them was at a con, and they at the con they actually went through it faster than any of the other groups that I've run it for, and
Oh, really?
they literally just ran away from everything. I was like, I was not anticipating that at all. And fortunately, it's kind of built out with like, you can make this 3 encounters, or you can make it 6 encounters.
Yeah.
But they're literally just like beelining through the whole thing.
Why were they running away from everything?
You know what? Like, part of the thing is there's a time limit,
Uh-huh.
and if you're still in the labyrinth, when for 24 hours, you're trapped there forever.
Oh,
But
got you. So having that clock actually, in a way, kind of played against you,
yes,
because
this time it did.
you're like they're not fighting. What's happening?
Yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and met some good people in that game. And so that's the other thing too. Like, um, as with any gaming GMing experience, you're gonna always just have to be ready to improvise.
Oh yeah.
So like, if I and that so that actually taught me something too. It was like, well, you know what? I should plan on X amount of encounters, but maybe I should have a couple more in my backpack pocket just in case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some extra ideas for different characters that they might encounter along the way. I mean, even in a dungeon, sometimes you might just want to throw something in just to get some role playing. Because that's one thing I found too, is like for me, I really like to get into the storytelling aspect and acting out the different roles of the characters. I do different voices. So if doing a like a Gen Con game, or you're running a game at a convention, and the whole adventure takes place in the dungeon, it doesn't give a lot of opportunity for the game master, dungeon master, to actually role play a character. So if that's part of gaming for them and it's something they're really passionate about, maybe they want to throw in an extra, run one of the pre-gens themselves, or have um, some kind of animal companion that can talk. I've done that a number of times, to give like little tidbits of advice here and there to keep the party on track, and also allow the GM or DM a role that they can act out instead of just being me smash head, with a monster. So
Yeah, generally, like I say, 3 encounters. Like, one of those is, generally 2 combat encounters, and one that is not a combat encounter is, I guess I should specify.
oh, okay, like a role playing encounter, or some kind of a maybe a puzzle or a riddle or something to overcome, um, without just rolling dice.
Yeah, yeah, something interesting for them to do, and I will always let them interact with the monsters if it makes even a little bit of sense, or they can figure out how to make it make sense.
Yeah, if they speak Orcish, and they brought along some wine or some ale or something, and they want to maybe they want to try to convince the orcs why they should come through here. They don't really want to slaughter all them and all their families. They just want to pass by and hear some ale. So we'll role play our way through this, or what have you.
In in my current weekly game, the gnome wizard actually has captured the goblin boss that they encountered,
Hmm.
and and at first she tricked him. She pretended to put a rune on him and told him if he did anything evil or didn't listen, he was going to explode.
Nice.
And so
I
several
like it.
sessions later, she still has this goblin manservant, or and I think every time I describe him, I describe his mohawk as just being a little bit taller than it was the week before. But
Mini
and
mohawk trim.
yeah, and so I did a thing too where I actually made him her familiar. So it's just kind of like fun things like that. Like, if they come up with creative solutions, I love implementing them in the game. One of the players decided they were going to spare the ogre that they had basically defeated. They killed an owlbear, they killed the ogre's companion, and it was just the ogre left. And given the option of surrender, he took that over dying. So she carted him back to town. Well, the next session, I had a conclave of halflings buy him as an indentured servant.
God.
So he's helped building the halfling compound for them.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's a fun way to incorporate that.
Yeah, if they do something weird or funny in my game, they can expect to see that. That's going to bite them in the ass some way or another, good or bad.
Oh, I'm the same. I keep notes on things. The players don't realize it, but when they do certain things, I'm like, ah, ha, ha. I'm just gonna make this little note, and I'll be pulling it up in about 8 sessions.
Yeah, and unfortunately now though, I think my halfling player and my half elf and barbarian player, they've now turned him into a stoner.
Nice.
So now every time he sees them, he wants halfling pipe weed.
That's
So,
hilarious.
turns out it mellows your ochres right out though, so it's fine.
Well, it's legal in Washington. I don't know about in your setting, but you know.
Yeah, in my setting, they're dealing with basically my version of these arcane Borg. So I completely ripped that
Wow.
off. They're dealing with blood cultists and chaos magic. Halfling pipeweed is the least of their concerns.
Yeah, I would say so.
We did a video a while back. I took it down because there was just so much venom and hate on it. But we did a video about kind of like diversity in gaming and getting more diverse game designers into the industry and supporting them. And we had like a bunch of Nazis show up.
Oh
So,
God.
because the one guy commented on the video, and I meant to delete his comment because I didn't like it, but I ended up blocking him instead. And he's pretty famous in the industry, or infamous, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And he did a video response. And so we had like, oh my god, there was so much hate on that video, so many dislikes, so many there was a couple threats. It was pretty ugly, but it inspired like the villains in my world. So I'm like,
Well, that's at least inspired something. Honestly, I have to say about all of that hate and everything, it's like I would ask those people to look internally on themselves and see what is it within you that you feel the need to lash out at others and be so upset. It's like life is so short, and to spend your time and your energy putting out all that negativity, if you found a way to channel that into something positive, something that you're into, whether it's making something better in your community, or even it's just in your gaming group or what have you, why don't you do that? I mean, it's a much better use of your energy. You're going to live a lot longer because stress is a big killer, and you're going to enjoy life more. I mean, you only get one life as you, so enjoy it.
yeah, no, absolutely. And the guy himself isn't that bad. I mean, there's stories, but I don't actually know all the details. But his following is just atrocious. I'm just like, ugh.
Wow.
I'm like, would I hang out with any of these people in real life? What would happen? Oh, I would get into fist fights. No, so it's not so I just stay away. But here's something that's kind of funny. I think you'll appreciate this. Scabby Knacker. One of my players is trying to convert a save town to worship the fawns while the cleric wasn't paying attention. Then the cleric said that the town should thank God now that the town worships the fawns. So that's hilarious.
Well, on that note, I've got to get running. I have to run off to the day job now and go help seniors and the disabled. So
Nice.
so I got to go do that. But thanks a lot for having me on your show.
No problem. You want to come on later at another time? You're more than welcome. Open invitation.
Yeah,
as long as we got space.
And if you ever want to join a session of my D&D gaming group, let me know, and you can Skype in. And if you haven't used Fancy Grounds, my guys are more than happy to show you the ropes, and you can hop in for a session.
I can really use that. I got like the super deluxe key that they gave me, and I just never got it to work. And I'm like, if it takes more than 15 minutes, I'm moving on.
We'll help you. We'll help you through every step. Seriously.
Oh, nice.
My whole gaming
awesome.
group, we love to help people learn how to do this, because once they get it down, once you use Fancy Grounds, you'll never use another virtual tabletop. I'm telling you, it's the best. Especially for D&D 5e, it's fantastic.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming on, Jonathan. Guys, remember the links to his website is adventureaweek.com, as well as the Kickstarter that's going on right now are in the description. That Kickstarter is already kicked. There's no question or not whether you're going to get your stuff. It's going to happen. Thanks again, Jonathan. Take care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And real quick, well, before I go, I forgot to mention stretch goals on that. We've already unlocked tons of new artwork by Matisse Laurentiou, our lead Romanian artist. We've already unlocked Hero Lab for 5th edition and Pathfinder. Fantasy Grounds has been unlocked for 5th edition. It's about to unlock for Pathfinder. And then after that, we got Realmworks, and then a whole bunch of Underworld adventures that everyone's going to get for free if we keep unlocking stuff. So yeah, pledge on Kickstarter. It's Underworld races and classes for 5th edition and Pathfinder role-playing game.
Sweet. Have a good one, Jonathan. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up a little bit short. Jonathan had to go actually go to work and work his muggle job, as Scott Garrity would say. I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. Tomorrow you can tune in. We're doing a session 0. It'll probably still be about an hour, maybe a little bit longer than our normal live chat. And I will definitely be looking at the chat for ideas if you guys have them. And that's going to be for our Open Legend game, which we're going to start running that on Fridays. So you guys will be able to check that out as well. So until next time, guys, stay nerdy.